Good evening, everybody. My name is Jose Negron, and welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with me or my channel, the reason why I call it Uncommon Sense is that we are trying to deal with issues. I'm trying to find a logical solution. Now, tonight, I will be discussing the shutdown that occurred yesterday on Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. To be perfectly honest, I was not aware of this until yesterday evening because the fact of the matter is I work during the day. So therefore, when I'm working, I'm not thinking about Instagram. I'm not thinking about Facebook. I'm not thinking about WhatsApp. I'm thinking about actually doing my job. But it is amazing the reaction that many people had regarding the fact for a few hours there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, there was no WhatsApp. Now, it is a fact that you do have people who do make money out of Facebook, Instagram, and whatnot. So for some people, it was a real panic. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter the link. Okay, just to let everybody know, I'm currently live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope and Twitter. But what happened yesterday shows you how many people are dependent on social media. I mean, you have people who spend hours and hours and hours on Facebook and Instagram, posting every conceivable thing. Like if they have this sandwich, they're gonna post it on Facebook. If they go to this location, they're gonna post it on Instagram. And then many people use WhatsApp to communicate. Now, some people are saying that the reason why there was a shutdown because there was a person giving testimony regarding some of the things that Facebook has done, which has not been completely ethical. So for that reason, we had no Facebook, we have no Instagram, and no one have access to WhatsApp. But the truth of the matter is, nowadays, we have gotten very attached to our mobile devices. We use them for virtually everything. We use them to pay our bills. We use apps to purchase airline tickets. We use apps to make reservations on hotels and resorts and whatnot. We use transportation apps like Uber to get around. About the only thing that no one has developed is an app how to poop. And I'm sure at some point someone will come up with an app. So I would encourage everyone to please subscribe, like, and hit the bell notification. So therefore, you will be posted as far as whenever I load anything. Also, as you can see, you can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter. Also, you can follow me on YouTube. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a little music. I know there's a little bit of a confusion regarding the start time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play some music to give people an opportunity, excuse me, to Okay, we're back. Now, to be perfectly honest, I don't know if we ever going to find out what caused Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp to be shut down. uh, but it does give light to the fact that we do have hackers that do try to shut down various platforms. I'm just going to share two brief stories. Um, about 2 years ago, hackers entered into my union's website and they were able to gain access to certain confidential information. As a result, my union had to upgrade its security because when you're dealing with confidential information of over 22,000 members, um, the membership need to be comfortable that their personal data will not be accessed by anyone other than those that need to access that data for legitimate reasons. Also, in one of our virtual meetings that we have as a result of the pandemic, um, someone was able to hack into a virtual meeting. And the person was saying a lot of colorful language. Let me just keep it that way. So, and again, um, that individual was removed, and then we had to like improve the security. And I believe we're gonna have. Good evening, Joaquin.
Good evening, Jose. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. How you been?
Oh, I've been pretty well. I can't complain. I can't complain. Just running errand to grab some food.
Yes, I still can't get over the fact that we had a complete shutdown on Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp.
Oh yeah, yeah. The WhatsApp app and Instagram and Facebook, and yeah, it definitely happened. Me personally, currently, I don't have anything invested in those social media platforms, and I've been trying to lay off of social media for a while myself. So I didn't really feel the sting before a lot of people. If you may have things invested into social media, if you may have, if you tend to, be on social media for a long period of time, I'm pretty sure they felt it, with everything being down, because social media these days is such a big business compared to, even the early to mid 2000s before, social media really existed.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? It's amazing how people can make money out of social media. I mean, not just YouTube, but Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and whatnot. The fact of the matter is there's so many platforms on social media where a person can make a buck.
Yeah, yeah, because that's one of the pros of social media because we understand that it has its pros and its cons. But one of the pros of social media is it being allowed. I mean, with social media being created, it has created multiple streams of revenue, and just being able to communicate with people across the country, even across the world, to be able to, promote your business or, create your own media and be a YouTube personality and to be able to speak to people all over the world that may be able to relate to you, which has, created, extravaganza with social media. So, now everyone is involved, you know, everyone can really, communicate with people. You can make money off of it. So it has become And even if you don't make money off of it, it has become a great pastime for a lot of people. So that's one of the pros.
Hmm. Just want to give a shout out to Stephanie D. I understand, to be perfectly honest, this was something that I planned today. So it wasn't something I planned like days or weeks or what have you. Of course, Christina did her stream last night regarding what happened with the shutdown of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. I just wanted to give my my perspective on it. Um, you'd be surprised uh, how much money a person can make. I mean, if they have like a huge following. I mean, take a look at Christina. She has over 10,000 subscribers, and then you have other people who have like 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, and whatnot.
Definitely. And it's crazy because I can remember in the beginning stages of YouTube when it was just, when it was just, getting started, and most of the people on there was just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
It was just, making videos, a lot of people giving their reviews on music, people, even kids giving reviews. And now a lot of these people over time have become, millionaires, or if they are not millionaires, they can make a comfortable living just based off of social media. Whether you're promoting your business, if you have such a large following, you will be able to make money off of your business. You can have a business as just as making T-shirts, and you will sell quite an amount of merchandise just based on your large following. Of course, people gravitate towards people that they can relate to and who have big personalities, and speaking about topics, even whether it be economics or something that's fun, that's entertainment. And it has produced a lot of people that are making a comfortable living off of social media. It's a lot of money in social media these days.
That's true because you have certain people on YouTube that have merch stores. Like you have, of course, you have Radical Latino, and you also have Christina, which is it's a very good way of advertising. Um, now I know that I'm not going to make a penny from YouTube. I mean, but um, the whole purpose is for me to share what little wisdom that I've acquired with those who are willing to listen.
Yes, and that's always great because currently myself as well. I just like to hop on YouTube, voice my opinions on certain things, and of course, I like to hear other people's opinions, and of course, be able to interact with people from all over the country, whether it be on the East Coast, whether it be on the West Coast, or whether it be somewhere down south. I'm just a Midwestern kid that well, not a kid anymore, but you know what I mean. I just like a Midwestern guy that like to sit and communicate with people. So currently, I'm right now. I'm just getting my feet wet. I should have been involved in social media and YouTube a long time ago. Maybe I could have been profiting off of it by now. But
Uh,
currently, it's just really
excuse me,
for entertainment purpose.
excuse me, but I just wanted to say that true teachers, you didn't miss a lot. You just basically we started talking on the subject. You're more than welcome to pop in and give your words of wisdom. Sorry about that, Rakim. Please continue.
No, no problem, Jose. Can you excuse me one moment? I'll be right back, please.
Yeah, no problem. Um, the fact of the matter is, for every type of subject, you can find it in YouTube. And the fact of the matter is, with social media, it could be used as a positive tool or a negative tool. Good evening, to a teacher.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay, I can barely hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Uh, it's a little bit. Let's see what we can do. So, how you doing tonight?
I'm all right. I just finished teaching my class
Oh, okay.
and said, let me jump in, you know? So yesterday, I don't know. I found out everything had crashed. I had a class to teach and I stream it over Facebook and I couldn't get on. And I thought I thought it was something wrong with my computer, so I turned it off and I rebooted it like 3 times, and it was still messing up. So I said, okay, let me see if YouTube is working, and YouTube was working. So that's when I figured it must be something on Facebook, because I think Facebook had crashed once before. I think it was in 2019.
Hmm.
So I called up the center that I teach the class for, and the lady said, "Yeah, like I can't get on Facebook either, like not even on my phone." And that's when I figured out, okay, this is something happening on Facebook then.
Okay. First of all, I just want to welcome Ramon. Good evening, Ramon. How are you doing tonight?
Good evening, Don Jose. How you doing? How you doing, Raquin, teacher? How you guys doing?
So far, so good.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I was reading that there was a whistleblower that was giving testimony in Congress. I think it was yesterday, or was it
Um,
sometime this week? And there
so
was some people talking about maybe that's the reason why Facebook went down yesterday.
well, yeah, people have been saying that. I don't know. I didn't hear I didn't have a chance to watch the interview that she had given. But a little bit that I heard was they said that Facebook intentionally promotes, like controversial interactions because people are attracted to that. And if they had put protections in place to basically, I guess, stop trolling and misinformation, people would be engaging on the platform less.
Hmm.
So in order to keep people on the platform more, when people are arguing, they're excited and they're hooked in. And that means that there's more chances for them to click on ads.
Hmm.
So they deliberately encourage that kind of behavior, you know?
Okay.
So,
So
controversial interactions. I mean, that's kind of a broad term. I mean, I don't know if there is like a definition for it. I mean,
well,
because I understand that. Uh huh.
like
Yeah, I'm listening.
racially charged conversations and things of that nature, like politically polarizing, conversations and things like arguments and stuff like that. So from what I heard, like, what the lady was saying, I guess, I gotta go and watch the interview that she gave. I think it was on 60 Minutes,
Hmm.
but she went into like great detail about, how they deliberately encourage that kind of behavior for the sake of getting engagement, on
Okay.
site.
Okay, so you're talking about it was kind of like an executive, a Facebook executive that was giving testimony about it, something like that.
Yeah, she was, a Facebook employee, very high
Ah,
up,
oh,
and
okay, okay, yeah, yeah,
brought,
yeah.
yeah, she brought receipts,
Uh,
So I think tomorrow she's gonna be giving testimony in the Senate,
Hmm.
about what she had said on 60 Minutes. So it's uh it's a little shocking, and the
Yeah.
supporting people are willing to, basically create mayhem for the sake of profiting, their business.
Well, I mean, when it comes to Facebook, I haven't been too much in there for some time. I mean, when I look in, I use the Messenger feature, but I don't get into the Facebook so much itself anymore because for a few years it's been common knowledge that like the government monitors Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg. My understanding is that he cooperates with the government and allows the government to see um, info about the subscription base and all. So okay, I use it. I look around a little bit, but I barely post anything anymore. So I don't trust it. I mean, if it is true that it's closely connected to the government like that, to the FBI and shit. So I refrain from posting much there anymore. I do use the messenger feature, but that's kind of like to communicate with people. I say a couple of things and that's it. And if I can call them on a separate line or whatever, that would be better. But that's I just my what I would recommend for people is that don't be posting a lot of shit on Facebook because that is monitored. I mean, if you say anything that has to do with kind of like anything that even comes across as threatening, you can get kind of like somebody from the government show up at your house and questioning you about it. And I don't know. I don't trust it. I don't trust it. I mean, there are people that very foolishly do things like uh, they make posts in which they are uh, talking garbage about a public figure or issuing threats or posting pictures with their guns and things like that. That's very foolish. I mean, you're just drawing attention, the wrong type of attention the, to themselves. They're drawing that type of attention. It's like no, no, don't do that. I mean, I just don't do that at all.
Well, the fact of the matter is a New York City employee. The agencies have different policies in regards to social media.
Yeah,
And the fact of the matter is, we cannot post anything that will put the agency which we are employed with in a negative light, nor can we reveal confidential information because the fact of the matter is, you can't be disciplined, you can't be suspended, and in some cases, your employment can be terminated. And the fact of the matter is, this is kind of like something that I discussed when I conducted my first live stream.
yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, no, it is in many companies. It's already company policy that you can't be posting things that have to do with the job on personal social media and things like that. I just recently had a training at work but it had to do with harassment, things that have to do with harassment. But there was a little bit of info that they were communicating to us about posting things on social media. Those things can be used against you. So that's posting on social media should be limited anyway. But also, if one cares about one's job, also that's another reason why not to post certain things. I mean, I guess you can post things that are kind of insignificant as to what place were you like a month ago. Don't not at the moment. You don't post where you are at the moment that you are there. You can post about it when you're already back home, I guess. But things that are sensitive in nature, sensitive information, things that have to do with the job, then nah, it's best not to make any posts, and not get too political either, because people get doxxed. You know what doxed is, and the personal info can be exposed by hackers and all of that, and it's best to keep it at a minimum. Now, when it comes to the whole thing that Christina was talking about last night, I admit that I didn't know anything about it, but maybe it's because I'm not on social media like that to begin with. Just recently, it just so happens that a couple of days back, I did shut down my Twitters. I had a couple of Twitters. I just wasn't using them. So if I need to interact, it's either via the Facebook Messenger or via Instagram. Like that's how I got your message, Don Jose. It was via Instagram because I do keep that active, because I can interact with a few people there, and yeah, I look around. I look at certain things, and I get certain advertisements that could be of interest for me. But nah, I'm not sitting on social media making posts trying to interact with people. I'm a little bit more old school. I mean, I'm not that young anymore, so I'm from a time where when I was younger, we didn't have social media, so we had to interact. We had to actually go out there and actually meeting people face to face and actually interact, exchange numbers. That's how it was. That's how it was. In somewhat, to a degree, we should get back to that.
Well, the fact of the matter is, I am part of that generation when we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have social media, and if you wanted to look up something, you had to go to an encyclopedia. We didn't have Google, and basically the telephone used to hang on the wall.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So believe me, I know that feeling. I lived that time. So
Yeah.
um, when I am more active in social media, but basically the material that I post are two types: humorous or positive.
Oh, okay. Right. Right.
Because
Yeah, I really didn't want to get into it, but I had to because, like, as an entertainer, you know,
You're
that's the way
breaking
you.
up. You're kind of breaking up, teacher.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying I didn't want to do it, like Facebook, but as an entertainer, this is the way like everybody advertises themselves and communicates. So I use it for that, like if I have events coming up and stuff like that. But as far as sharing like deep details about my personal life and stuff like that, nah, I don't do that shit.
Oh
And
no, no. If you look at, I still have my Facebook, but if you find things, if you find certain things, they're gonna be like from like 5, 6 years ago. I mean, you're really not gonna find anything too recent. It's gonna be the the closest thing to today is gonna be like 4 or 5 years ago. Have been to a couple of places or so. Yeah, 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 yeah. I don't bother. I don't bother so much anymore.
I don't even hardly like receive like friend requests anymore. I mean, I get a shitload of a friend requests all the time, and like I don't just accept friend requests like that. I gotta screen it. Sorry.
bless you.
Thank you.
Salud, salud.
So like just that alone, screening the people because sometimes you get weirdos. And at one point, I used to just go in and just like accept every friend request that my way, and then you start getting some weird messages.
Yeah.
So I need to go
Mhm.
through it and see, okay, well, how why this person, you know, contacting me, do we have like friends in common, you know, like where they live in. That takes a lot. That in and of itself is like a full-time job. I was like, I'm
Yeah.
not time for this shit, you know? So if I put something out, you know, like an event, I put it public so everyone can see it. But in terms of engaging with people on one-on-one, unless I know them, I don't. You know, I do have a personal um Facebook account, and that's only for like family and like friends that I actually know in real life, you know?
Yeah. Um, I find it amazing that people will post the silliest stuff on Facebook, like at 8:30 p.m. I'm gonna have breakfast. At 9:30 p.m. I'm gonna take a walk, and at 10:30 p.m. I'm gonna go to the bathroom to relieve myself. It's like, why do we need to know this stuff?
Those are people that are really looking for attention, or they don't have like real relationships in real life, so they're trying to compensate with that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
rather it's very sad. It's really sad, actually. But yeah, there are people that are not very good at socializing in real life, in real time.
Yep.
So they're trying to do all of their socializing online, and uh, they can be kind of they can be a bit annoying because we don't really we don't care. We don't care what they're eating. We don't care about them walking their dog. I mean, like that's supposed to be. We don't care what they're eating. We don't care. Oh, my bad, my bad. Hang on.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, as I was saying, that like no, like who the hell cares? I mean, they're starving for attention. They have an issue.
Um, Actually, I think what it is, they need therapy because if they really have to go to that length to try to get attention, something is not working right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Pretty much.
To teach you, do you have anything you'd like to share?
You know, the thing that came to my mind was, you know, like I said, I use it for work, you know, and like I have a client that, you know, I teach my class over, you know, it's on Zoom, but I stream it over Facebook, you know, because that's the way the organization is set up. And I imagine that there are a lot of other people who do use it for business purposes. And well, come to think of it, the majority of my involvement on Facebook is business, you know? And it's just a little bit frightening to be in a position where, you know, nowadays so much of our lives are dependent on these platforms. And you know, if the platform goes down, you're fucked. You know, your whole, you know, aspects of your whole life are just like gone, you know? So on the one hand, it's great to have this kind of technology for certain things, but on the other hand, it's really kind of unnerving, you know, even our phones. You know, I mean, just stop and think like how much of our lives are on our phones, and God help you if you lose your phone, you know? So
I mean,
it's
you
Yeah.
know
it's
something?
trying.
We use our mobile devices for so many things. I mean, you do your banking on your phone. You purchase airline tickets on your phone. You make reservations for restaurants on your phone. You do grocery shopping. I mean, you do everything. About the only thing you don't do yet is poop. And I have a feeling that some point, someone will probably come up with an app to poop.
No, no. I'm sure there is already an app that it can direct you to the nearest public restroom. I'm sure there is an app that can do that. That will be my guess.
But I have lost count on how many virtual meetings that I have attended.
Uh,
And the same issue keeps coming up. You have people who forget to mute themselves and you hear a dog barking, you hear children screaming, you hear people arguing all in the background, you hear the television going on, you hear the radio going on, you hear all sorts of noises and whatnot. And people look at me if I'm weird, if before the virtual meeting starts, I say, can we discuss housekeeping and how we're supposed to be muted when until it's time for us to speak?
Yeah. Yeah, because there are people that have a lot going on. They could be on a panel like this one, but they have the music playing, they have the dog barking, they have the kids making noise. The, they have a lot going on instead of being able to focus on the meeting or participating on the panel that they're part of. Too many distractions around. I mean, it's like they're not taking the meeting seriously, or they're not taking the panel seriously. So it's kind of, one doesn't really want to deal with somebody like that. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's too different from like as men that have been on dates and the other person is distracted. One thing that I don't deal with is kind of like, if I fortunately the last couple of days that I have been, at least I haven't had to deal with that, because these were with a woman that I already knew, and I knew that I didn't have to worry about her being on the phone all the time, which I find very rude. I mean, many of them, they don't, maybe don't care or don't know. But yeah, I hate that. I hate that. I meet up with somebody, and the other person is kind of like on the phone looking at Instagram, and we're supposed to be having a conversation. And I would rather go. I'll try to have a plan B.
Well, I just want to welcome Stephanie. Stephanie Young. Good evening.
How are you guys?
Fine,
Hey,
thank you.
evening.
Well,
Thanks for
thank
coming
you.
up.
Thank you for joining my channel.
Nope, I just wanted to come in and say hi really quick. I might not
hey
stay
guys,
for
I
too
just
long
wanted to.
because I'm doing, like mommy stuff right now, but I just wanted to come and listen to the channel and see what was going on.
Well, we're
Uh,
discussing what happened yesterday with the fact that for a few hours there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram or WhatsApp.
Yeah,
So,
There not being WhatsApp, it kind of worries me, because that's how I keep with a couple of
yeah,
in touch
outside the
with a
country.
couple of people offshore that are not in the country. Yeah. Not having WhatsApp, it kind of worries me a little bit. Not so much Facebook. I don't care so much about Facebook, but if we were to lose the use of WhatsApp, that would worry me.
Yeah, I wasn't really affected by it. I don't do any type of like business that involves social media. Like I think a lot of the people that were affected were all these people that have online businesses because they use Facebook ads as one of the biggest marketing agencies for businesses online right now. And they go through Facebook, it affects Instagram, it affects all those platforms. So that's why people were going nuts. If you had money invested that day, you didn't get your views, you didn't get your advertising.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like all of these apps that do need for data to be flowing, for there to be data available that will update those apps that have to do with whatever it is, like you were saying,
Mhm.
with investing and being able to monitor stocks and things like that. That you get caught off from that, and you don't know what's happening with your money. So
Exactly.
yeah. It can be it can be nerve wracking.
Devastating for some people.
Yeah.
mhm.
Like that's what
Hey
I mean
guys, I just wanted to
about, like
say I'm back. I was running to go take care of some errands and everything. I think that we have a few people on the Shout out to Truth Ramon, and I see Stephanie just joined.
Hey, Rakim, I haven't heard you speak at all, man. So
Well, he was on earlier.
Yeah, Ramon.
yeah, I was wondering about you.
Food, man. I had to run in to go grab my food. Yeah, I had to run to go grab my food. That's why I was telling Jose that I'll be back just a split second.
Oh,
I'm gonna
that's
grab
good.
my food from this little restaurant.
Ah, that's good. That's good.
So, Stephanie, what do you think about the channel?
I like it. I was actually checking out your videos yesterday, and I like that you have different kinds of topics. So I'm gonna be subscribed, and I'm gonna be paying attention to those videos.
Well, you know what? I do appreciate it very much. I don't claim to be an expert on anything. I just trying to share what little wisdom that I have acquired with other people who are willing to listen.
Definitely, and it's good to have different points of views of different topics from regular people.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it so far. I support you.
Yeah,
I'll be tuning in.
Yeah, no ratchetness. No drama.
No. This is a completely retro.
You couldn't have said it better.
I enjoy being able to have actual educated conversations with people that don't involve gaslighting and things like that.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a nice change. That's refreshing because too much of the types that need the drama.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think
definitely couldn't have said it better. Normal topics for normal people.
Yeah,
That's right.
This is the thing, like social media, it has a great potential, for facilitating conversation. But it's a double-edged sword. I guess it's like anything else in life, it's got its positives and negatives, and it can be used, or abused, and unfortunately a lot of people choose to use it in abusive ways,
Yeah.
It gives a platform to people that are not always 100% balanced, and it gives them the opportunity to be toxic online.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah,
that was something that I experienced
which
when
I was.
I'm sorry. Okay. That was something I experienced when I got on the live with Christina regarding femicide and how certain individuals got triggered because we're talking about women being attacked and killed, and then coming back and saying, well, men get killed too. We're not denying that. It's just that we're trying to talk about something that some people prefer not to talk about. The fact that women have been attacked and assaulted and killed and whatnot.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if that's gonna be part of what Christina is gonna be talking about on her live tomorrow, because it's gonna be
Actually, it's gonna be Latino men, whether they're what are the positives and what are the negatives. So it's going to be an interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. It's just that when they say about the machismo thing and all the negative connotations with it, I mean, it wasn't always a negative thing. It's just that the whole thing with feminism, in the last several decades, there is nothing new to it. It has given a very negative connotation about being macho, about a man, which is macho it just means masculinity, being proud of being masculine. But these days, machismo equals a woman beater or woman abuser, which is not true. That was never true.
You know what I think the problem is also with that is that machismo also is supposed to represent, because it means one thing for men, right? When men look at you and they see if you're masculine, it means something completely different to you guys than it does to women. Like what we expect from masculinity overall, besides out forget the whole provider, all that bull, is like that sense of being safe with a man. So this whole rhetoric with the anti-feminism and the machismo, a lot of what women are hearing right now doesn't involve them feeling safe around men. And I think that's where a big issue comes in. And that's going to be a big problem in kind of fixing that, you know, because women are just hearing men wanting to be controlling, to decide, to lead, to this, but they're not feeling safe with men saying these things. And even in the way they say it, it doesn't come across as we want to protect you, you know?
Mhm.
That's my opinion on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe
Social media.
I gotta go off of what Ramon was saying, because me personally, I do believe that feminism has really tore a hole in the way men are perceived, because it has rhetoric being pushed like every man is a potential predator, every man is a potential R-I-S-T at the end of that word. Every man is a potential threat, and it's creating an atmosphere. Where a lot of these people are profiting off of, selling fear of men to, women who already have a preconceived notion on the way men are. And it's really, you're starting to really see the effects of that when it comes to women and men relationships, especially here in America. So I think a lot of it does come from feminism, and it really has really tarnished men's image, because like when women talk about men, not being able to feel safe, whatever, more than likely when it comes to a dangerous men, who checks the threat of dangerous men? It's not women, it's other men that does that. So this rhetoric that get pushed that all men are this, all men are that. I think it's very detrimental to.
I agree with that. I agree with that. With the role feminism plays in regards to, because that's what's feminism. Feminist women are what's teaching society. Women in society, what they should be, who they should be, all of that. But one thing that I was actually talking about, I don't remember who I was talking to this about very recently, was that usually when it comes to like, okay, so feminists will say, you have to watch out for men. Like, honestly, we're taught that in our houses by our mothers that are not feminist anyways. Like they instill these fears in us. Like one of the things they teach you to fear from a young age, being a girl, is the RAPE word, from a very young age. So it's not just feminism, but what I was talking about with one of my friends the other day was that whenever these topics come up about why women fear men or women seeing men all the same way, usually men, instead of speaking up, and now you're hearing it more, men holding men accountable with certain things. But before, a lot of what you would hear was like, oh, that's just how men are. So as a woman, to hear from other men that are supposed to be protecting you, well, that's just how men are. It's kind of like, okay, so then what am I supposed to do if you're just letting them be? Because we know there's bad people, we know there's great men out there too, but if most of the really good men are not speaking out and reassuring women that they're not them, women are still gonna feel like that. You have to show the other side of the coin to these girls growing up so that they actually believe it. Yeah. And right now they're seeing a lot of bashing for things that aren't even really in their control. That's how they're being raised.
Yeah, it's amazing how we hold women accountable for getting pregnant. The last time I checked, you need a man to get a woman pregnant. Am I not correct?
Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying, Don Jose, but okay, yes, I'm not saying that men should not have a responsibility, and they're being held responsible. Men are being held responsible. I'm not saying that men shouldn't have any responsibility, but the sex act doesn't happen without the woman's consent. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen because if the woman says no, but if the man insists, then that becomes assault. So
Yeah.
the law is on the woman's side. Okay, yes, men should be held accountable if a woman gets pregnant, but not only the men. I mean, it takes two people for that to happen, though.
Yeah,
Sure.
but accountability comes with, if a woman decides to have that child, that's her accountability. You know, but and when it comes to that, there's another conversation I was having with a friend. Is before, when young kids messed around and got pregnant, usually the parents would be like, hey, you guys need to get married. Like, people don't really do that anymore either. That's
No.
one way that people were held accountable, especially men. That if the girl showed up pregnant, her mom and her dad went to his house and they were like, listen, your son knocked up my daughter. What are we going to do about this? You don't tell me if you know anybody in the last 20 years or 25 years that has done that when they find out their kids are pregnant.
That's why they use the shutdown.
Well, the laws, not only have the law change where you can't really do that anymore, a lot of women have gained more freedom.
You could never force them to. You could never force them to. It was more about like values,
Well, it depended on where you was. That's why they called it shotgun weddings, man. Because back in the day, man, like, they really took that shit serious,
Yeah, because it was kind of like a bad image for the family, and a lot more religion was involved in
no
that.
father wanted his daughter to end up with a kid that the father wasn't gonna be there for. Like, it wasn't even about how the family was viewed. It was also about who's gonna feed that child.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
But
And
it
before,
seems like
women
as
used to die
well,
in
like,
childbirth all the time too. So it was also like, who's gonna take care of her?
yeah, but it seems like as time has went on and it's been more, because what we're dealing with now is that, in my personal opinion, you have women that have more freedom and able to do what they want to do, and with that being said, I believe that the man's role has diminished within a relationship, because I mean within the the whole relationship, like family wise is everything, because now you're having a lot of a lot of situations where women are having children where they're not married and different various things like that. But
They don't care anymore.
one thing I wanted to, I mean, because the way society has shifted, it went from feminism on, to, about like jobs and different things like that. But now it's almost like you have a lot of women. What I've seen, like I gotta agree with what Ramon was saying. Men have always been held accountable. There's not a time in life where men was not held accountable, especially when I'm producing and providing. Most men that are about their business, if I'm sitting here and I'm discussing, if I'm sitting here and I'm discussing business with Ramon, Truth, and Jose, and we're talking about what we're going to do to make money or how we're going to build something, a man that doesn't have his things in order, if he comes around us, that man is going to be quiet, because he's not going to want to speak, because he knows he doesn't have anything to bring to the table, and without even saying anything, he knows that it's a situation where he's going to be shunned, because we're going to be looking at him like, okay, you're a man, what are you not doing with yourself? What do you bring to the table? Are we trying to put something together? So, like, that notion of the men not being held accountable or responsible.
Yeah, but you're talking about being holding each other responsible and accountable when it comes to like things that you guys do within yourselves. I'm talking about when you're talking about women nowadays, or how feminism is affecting like young women. I'm talking about how there's a lack of accountability because nothing is one-sided. Like, yes, feminism has played a big role in all of this, but there's a reason why. It didn't just spring up out of nowhere.
Well,
So
it depends on which
it didn't
wave
spring
of
up out of
feminism
nowhere.
you're talking about.
The third wave, obviously. Like, I know we needed feminism, right? The first wave of feminism was necessary.
No, I don't, and I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it.
Then
If
this
there was
the second
like
and
a
third, I don't know.
real oppression of women and all of that, then I don't have a problem with it. I'm talking about when um, the more modern feminists that are never satisfied, that they are power hungry, that they're the ones that go around always talking about this whole toxic masculinity thing
Yeah.
and demonizing us. So they I have every right to have a problem with them because they're
No,
not,
yeah.
because they're not even trying to help women for the most part. It's just this faction of third wave feminists that are just trying to help themselves. They're trying to
Yeah.
gain power for themselves, and they're the ones that may get some behind the scenes meeting with some politician, and they strike a deal and they get some funding for whatever it is movement that they want to do. So they're getting some money, but they're not really trying to benefit women as a whole. I mean, they're trying to. It's a hustle. It's a hustle
I
for them.
think honestly, you know what I think it all boils down to is the role that women are playing in the economy. That wave is going to continue to grow as long as we have a big impact on the economy, because women are one of the biggest spenders when it comes to the beauty industry, to fashion, even in the medical field. We cause the most debt. Like, I don't think that there's ever going to be a push to kind of slow down that feminism wave, because it promotes that ideal that, it promotes basically I don't even know how to explain it, but it kind of all ties down to that. The way I look at it, the economy and how
Yeah,
they want spending and
the
earning more and
whole
consuming more.
consumerism and
But
promoting that women
Exactly.
are the ones that
yeah,
run the finances of
Exactly.
the home, so they're gonna be spending more. So
Exactly.
yeah, I hear you. I hear
but
you.
see,
And it's true. It's perfect.
That's
That's
why for
perfect.
me, like, it's such a touchy subject, because I'm like, I'm in the middle. I'm like, I know we need, and honestly, I'm one of those type of women that believe we do need feminists. We need, like, there's a role. I believe there's a role for everybody. The fact that there's so much more women in this country, not in the world, in this country, more women than men, there are going to have to be women that have to take on different roles. Not every woman can be the feminine woman, because there's not going to be enough men for those feminine
yeah, but it's
women.
getting to a point
What was
but
that?
it's getting to a point like what you were saying, Stephanie, with uh oh, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that you
Okay,
were
no,
you
I'm just
were
gonna
kind of
say is
uh,
oh, okay.
no, go on, go
It's
on.
getting to a point, Stephanie, like you said, it's not gonna oh, okay. It's getting to a point, like you were saying, Stephanie, it's not gonna slow down, but it's getting to a point where like you're starting to see things implode, because it's like a train going 1,000 miles per hour that's going to run into a brick wall, because the more and more like women are finding themselves out of their traditional roles, they're finding themselves more unhappy, especially trying to compete with men. They're realizing that they need men, because like you said, for protection purposes. It was just a guy that was running around in Atlanta. He, scoped out this woman's house, and of course it was no man. She had no significant other, and he played off like he was a florist. And he ring the doorbell and tell her, yeah, you have flowers from somebody. And she was all elated because she thought she was going to get flowers, and then he turned around and put a gun in her face and robbed the house. So women are finding themselves in more situations like that. And as far as protection goes, I can only, like what Ramon was saying, I can only protect you if you allow me to. Even me telling you, do not go to this area at this particular time, do not leave out without me with this, that's a form of protection. And as I'm telling you that, you decide, listen, you're not my father, I'm going to do what I want to do. And if you leave without my sight, or you find yourself in imminent danger in the surrounding area, I can't protect you like that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's
Yeah, no,
almost
I understand that. I think honestly, I know that everybody says that, like, this is how most women are. Maybe it's just like in my community, because I am Hispanic, that women don't really tend to be like that. But it sounds crazy. Like, it sounds like women that think like that have like issues. Like, traumas, you know, because it just doesn't make any sense when you're in a relationship. Like, it's not about someone telling you what to do. Like, everything involves communication and agreement between two people, you know? So for someone to say like, oh, you're trying to act like my dad, like, that's just crazy. That's insane.
Well, in one stream that I participated with Denise, when I talked about, how women were being killed, just for being killed. One point I would make, if I was going out with my girlfriend, and if I see her that she's dressing a little bit provocatively, I would just have a serious conversation and say, I understand that you have the right the way to dress that you would you wish. I would prefer if you would reconsider. And then if not, I'll have to deal with it. I mean, I'm not trying to control what she wears. Just that I wanna have a nice quiet evening with my lady.
Yeah. I mean, I think that those are things, and this is something that I think that we need to work on, is having communication before you get into relationships with people, and actually talking about like what you like, what you don't like, what you expect, what you don't expect, and all those things. Because like, you should know before you actually go on a date, like, if she's the type of woman that would wear the freakum dress, or if she's more modest. I would think, that's why I'm a believer of, like, when you first meet someone, like, actually chit chat a little bit, have some video calls before you jump into dates, because you might find out on that first date that she's a psycho.
True. That's true.
And the thing is that there are these women that want to be dressing to draw attention to themselves, and if a man tries to kind of like advise her against her, then the shaming comes, like, oh, you're insecure. Oh, you're not man enough to handle all of this, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because she kind of has to project, because that is an insecurity in
Yeah.
herself. Because you're not gonna tell me that a confident woman who's securing herself has to draw attention to herself by having half of her ass out.
Yeah, I mean, that's I don't know. I guess it depends where you draw the line, right, on what is like sexy and what is not and stuff like that. But some men like that. Like my daughter's father, he used to love like be dressing up and looking real pretty so that he could have a trophy next to him.
No, but trophy, but looking pretty doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be half naked. That doesn't mean
pero tú sabes que hay algunos hombres, there's some men that que le gustan sus mujeres que anden enseñando todo, acaba de hacer, like straight out the surgery room.
Right. But those are women that they're not taking seriously. I mean, if you're talking about a man who is actually taking the woman seriously, who is a real significant other to him, he's not gonna want that. He's not gonna want for her to be showing off too much.
Most men prefer a woman that's a little more modest.
Yeah, if they're gonna be, right. If they're actually gonna have a relationship with that. Now, if they're just hooking up with some loose chick or something like that, then guys are not gonna care what she wears, because she. I don't know, I don't want you to be offended by saying this, but this is one of the disposable ones. I mean, if she wants to leave, get hooking up with someone else, then she can wear whatever she wants. I'm talking about the woman that a man is gonna be taking seriously. She's gonna want her to dress seriously. She's gonna want her to carry herself better and present herself.
Yeah, of course. You wouldn't want your friends to think that she's like loose, or or she's like for the crew, or whatever they say.
or for the streets, or for the
streets, yeah.
Yeah, community pussy or something. No.
Yeah.
Somebody that the man sees as possibly like a real future significant other. He's not gonna want that. I know I won't. I know I wouldn't. I mean, if it's somebody who I'm just playing with, then okay, I can't tell her what to do. I can't tell her what to wear. As long as she's nice to me, then I guess she can wear whatever she wants. I'm not gonna be with her for long, so that's fine. Yeah, I'm talking about something serious.
Claro, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. because that can cause issues, unwanted attention, possible fights.
Yeah,
things like
because I
that.
don't, no, but you see, because I carry means of self-protection, and I don't want to have to use it. I don't want to have to be forced into a situation where I'm actually going to have to take action like that, because I could end up in jail anyway, and I don't want to be put in that instance, in that situation. But hell, I mean, if it can be avoided, I would rather avoid it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to have to be a bodyguard whenever you go out.
No, 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 no. If I'm going out, I want to have a good time. I don't want to have to gotta like have to worry about what the woman that I have next to me is gonna do, because she's an attention freak, and she's gonna put me in a bad situation, or she's gonna embarrass me or something like that. Now, no man in the end wants a woman like that. I mean, okay, there are the thirsty, desperate ones
Hey,
that.
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we hear
okay.
you.
I was having issues with my audio. Okay.
So yeah, there is a difference. Okay, yes, a lot of us guys that we look about what's going on in Instagram and something like that. I look a little bit myself. I look a little bit, but they're like there for attention. They do what they do for attention. They're not somebody that I will take seriously, especially with all that those fake body parts that they have on. I mean, I find that very unattractive.
You see, and that's why I'm not the type of woman that is very jealous when it comes to stuff like that, because it's social media, first of all, it's right there. Like, sometimes you're swiping and you just see like a butt in your face twerking. You can't really do much about it. But again, it's social media. Like, pa donde tú vas? Pa ningún lado. You can't go nowhere.
No.
You can't go past the screen.
Before we continue, I just want to give a shout out to Monday Night. If you want, by all means, jump on the string. If not, it's okay.
Yeah, either MK or Denise if she's around. I mean, yeah, they can come on up, I guess.
But it's funny. I remember one stream I got on with Fighter. He had Universal Trip. And she was just expressing herself, but a lot of the men, had issues because here is a young lady who was speaking her mind. She really being a strong and independent woman, and then you have some of the men in the chat that was like almost shaming her because someone's beautiful, they should get married, and then you have someone, El Quisador, talking about, well, he felt tempted because of what she looked like. She looked very presentable, and then talking about we should all dress like Father Pio. Father Pio was a monk. Okay. I mean, we're talking about going from one extreme to the other extreme.
Yeah.
No, but the thing I saw a little bit of that live, and the mistake that the guys were making were that they were kind of like trying to convince this girl of not being all by herself, because apparently they thought that she looked good and something like that. They were making the mistake of giving her attention, trying to persuade her to change her mind. No, you can't change their mind. So somebody like her mind, she's one of those that do believe that men are obsolete, that we ain't shit, that she's better off without a significant other. And that's fine. If she wants to think like that, like move on to the next. That's why I didn't jump on that live. There was nothing to say. I mean, she felt like she was empowered being that way. Okay, she may have looked good or something like that, but there is nothing to talk about. I mean, like the guys were kind of like they felt maybe it was a trick, kind of like using some kind of reverse psychology, and her saying that she didn't want to be with a man caused the other guys to try to persuade her to change her mind, and giving her a lot of attention.
They just felt some type of way because she wasn't an option for them. I feel.
Women,
para todo el mundo. Like, let those women be por allá, you know.
Yeah. No, no. I wouldn't want to deal with with a woman like that because she had
Mhm.
a very serious disdain for men, and she was looking down. Some of the things you can look up, you can look back at that live, and some of the things that she was saying, I was actually finding her quite repulsive because I just don't interact with women that talk like that. I just
Yeah,
don't.
and one thing you just like me personally, based off of like what you were just saying, Ramon, I'm just tired of the rhetoric, man. Because at the end of the day, it's not men that's complaining; it's women. Now, women have been uh, awarded like everything that feminism has brought, like as far as equality goes. A lot of women say that they want equality, but when equality is
Yeah.
served on the platter, then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, that's still an issue. Like, you have women saying, no, we need to protect women. And I'm trying to understand protect women how, because the men that are supposed to be protecting you are men within your family, men that are your significant others. Those are the men that protect the women. I've seen personally men that have got involved in situations, trying to help other women, and they've lost their lives for it. And at the end of the day, who's going to go home and tell his wife, which is a fellow woman, that her husband is laying in the morgue with a tag on his toe because he got involved in this incident where he was trying to help someone else. And now
Yeah.
those women are not going to get together and say, we got to look out for a fellow woman and take care of her family and take care, the expenses and everything that her
Hell
husband
no.
was provided. They're
Yeah,
not
but I
doing
wasn't
that.
talking
Hell
about like
no.
actually physically going and taking a bullet for a stranger. I mean, when we're on these platforms and we're trying to talk about the issues that our communities are having, and if we're actually listening to people's complaints, or if what one person says, this is what the problem is, like that's what I mean. Not just kind of like, well, boys will be boys. Like that doesn't, if you're trying to raise, like if you have a daughter and you're trying to raise a girl, like, are you really going to tell her, well, boys will be boys? No, you're going to try to actually teach her how to navigate. you know that's what I'm talking about when it comes to accountability. And I say that because there have been streams out there where certain things pop up, like in the news, for example, and some channels, they don't even want to discuss it because they don't want to like talk about those type of things, and they're very important things that should be discussed. That's what I mean about accountability and protecting women. Not like getting in front of her boyfriend when they're arguing and punching him. I don't mean that.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was married, and that was not a very happy marriage. My ex-wife actually had the nerve to ask my mother if I had someone on the side. And it's like, how my mother responded? No, but I wish she did. I mean,
Yeah.
really, come on. If you're gonna have an issue when you're suggesting I'm getting something from the side, why are you gonna bring my mother into this stupidity?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have been in a little bit of a situation like that when I was younger, where a girlfriend was suspicious of me being involved with someone else, and my girlfriend would actually go to the other woman and ask her directly something was going on, and like, what the hell are you doing? I mean, it was somebody who was a friend. I mean, nothing major happened, but I've seen it happen. There are women that they just want to have a suspicion. They have they think that they assume that something's up, something's going on, and that comes from an insecurity of theirs.
Yeah.
Because yeah, women do have insecurities. I mean, it's not just men. There are women that love to go on and on about man insecurity, fragile ego this, fragile ego that. But women have their own insecurities, and that's why they do certain things that don't seem very logical. If she was having some kind of doubt, she should have talked to you, Don Jose, about whatever it is that she was inquiring, instead of bothering your mother.
Well, I'm happy to say I've been set free from my cross, so to speak. So, I'm trying to be, I'm trying not to go too low.
Better alone than in bad company. That's what they say.
That is so true. That's something
Yeah.
my mother used to say when she was alive.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Mejor siempre mal acompañado.
So,
Yeah. 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 Heard that too.
so, let's see if we can get back on the subject. Stephanie, do you use your social media for anything, or is this like a hobby, or what is it?
Um, I don't really use like I have a Facebook that I don't really use. I kind of just have it there for like if I need to log into something that requires a Facebook login. Instagram, I have an Instagram that I use and I don't post too much. I just post live what is that called? Stories. I post like a lot of stuff that I cook and stuff like that. And then
Oh,
YouTube, yeah, YouTube, I used to do videos. I kind of put them all private. And I've had my YouTube channel for years. I've been on YouTube probably since YouTube started, before they even monetized it. But I don't really make videos anymore. I don't have time. I'd like to, but I don't have time, honestly.
yeah. Originally, when I started my channel, I was going to do like one live stream like once every 2 weeks, because the fact of the matter is I work, and the fact of the matter, and also you need to devote the time to just to do your research to talk about a topic. The worst thing you can do is to try to talk about something and you have absolutely positively no knowledge.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, timing time is valuable. And and I'm a mom and I also like I'm in school too, so I'm like I really don't have time. Sometimes I just like listening, and I don't jump into the lives too much because I'm just listening. But I'm like I wish I had some extra time. I could probably share some information, but
mhm.
maybe in the future.
Maybe when your studies are over and your children are a little older. I mean, I'm not going to go too much into that, but maybe when the time is
Maybe.
right.
We'll see. Maybe.
Mhm. So, Rakeem, anything you wish to share?
Yeah, like with social media, I don't really use my social media too much. Um like what Stephanie was saying, like a lot of the times I don't have the time. I like to hop onto the live streams like during the time that I have some downtime. But like a lot of the like social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram. Like I'll post a few pics here and there, but a lot of the times I just enjoy hopping on YouTube because when I'm not on YouTube on the live streams, I enjoy watching videos on history and just different things like that. But as well, we all know since the formation of YouTube and various platforms, a lot of people have been given a voice that, in my personal opinion, really shouldn't have a voice. So a lot of things have become very toxic when it
Yeah.
comes to social media, to the point that you need to really take a break, because it's nothing worse than when you a person with common sense trying to make sense out of something that doesn't make sense.
Yes.
You end up straining yourself. You just like, I don't understand what's going on. I'm trying to, and then everything now is so politically correct that you like, okay, I'm trying to see this person's point and I'm trying to understand, but it's really nothing to understand, you know. And you just like, you know what? Let me just take a break off of it.
See, that's the reason why certain platforms I'm not even gonna think to join the strike. Like for example, I'm definitely not gonna join Kim 123. I'm sorry, but he's like a walking, I don't know, psychosis. And then some of these other individuals, and there's certain topics. I'm sorry, I'm just not gonna. I'm not going to comment, because if I don't have anything constructive to share, I'm not going to share.
Yeah, like we would say, just take him 123 for instance. Like in the beginning, when I heard a few of his videos, I would try to see if it was anything in there that made logical sense. But then once again, once you see a person and you hear their talking points and you look around, you know, like for instance, you look around the background and everything, you like, okay, this person, and this is just not Kim, this can apply to anybody.
Yeah.
This person has way too much time on their hands and they don't have much going on with their lives. Unfortunately, they may, like for instance, people, you know, talk down. You have some women out here, you have some men out here that have legitimate complaints when it comes to women, and you got some men that just talk down on women because maybe they were rejected, vice versa with women. Maybe they were rejected by certain men or different things like that. And usually their, you know, their talking points come from a place of insecurity, a place of feeling that hopelessness, you know, different things like that. And once you come to that conclusion, you just like, okay, you know, take what that person says with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And the fact of the matter is, you have certain individuals that get a lot of garbage heaped their way. Okay. And usually, what's the problem is you have certain individuals that cannot accept criticism or logic. So, therefore, when you have certain individuals, whether it be Christina, whether it be Denise, whether it be Radical Latino, whether it be Brotep, whether it be True Teacher, or what have you, they're going to have a lot of garbage to deal with under the tractors.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, just look at. I mean, all you got to do is just look at the way that they would, you know, what we seen the things that Denise or Tina would have to go through with some of these comments. These people would just. It's really just come to a point like maybe this woman is out of my league and I can't really get her, so I'm gonna just try to speak on something, you know, negative. Maybe they couldn't get a woman like Stephanie, or they couldn't get a woman like Tina, they couldn't get a woman like Denise. And that, you know, that's coming from a hurt place. And I would tell some of those guys, if you feel that bad about it, you need to get your lazy ass up, go start working out, hit the gym, build yourself up, get you some nice cologne, learn your measurements when it comes to your clothing, and get out there and start meeting people. Then maybe your outlook on life will change. Don't just jump out there and start meeting somebody because you're going to be
Yeah.
awkward. You got to sit around people first so you can get used to people's energy and being out in front of people. And then, you know, after a while, start talking. Don't be afraid of rejection. You're going to get rejected. It happens. And before you know it, you'll snag something on your fishing line and you'll be out having yourself a good time kicking it with your significant other. And those people, if they did that, their whole perspective on life when they come back to YouTube would change.
But there's one important element that's needed: therapy.
Yeah.
That's true.
No,
That's
those are
true.
Okay,
good.
That's
because
definitely true.
I mean, when you take a look at some of these individuals on YouTube, it's like they are poster children for the need for therapy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You can hear
Well,
the narcissism in their voices a lot of times. You can hear in like what the 18th letter you were saying, you know, the inexperience. Like a lot of times I could just by an argument that someone has or a talking point, like I could tell what their life experience is, you know. And it's true what you say is sometimes they just need to get out more and kind of, you know, deal with different types of people and put themselves out in those situations. That'll make them grow as a person.
well,
Yeah.
it's like I say all the time, social media is a blessing and a curse
Mm-hmm.
because it does allow us to be able to have really constructive conversations, and meaningful interactions. But the other side is that blade is there's a lot of emotionally disturbed people. And I think the one thing that social media has shown us is just how rampant, mental illness is in
Yes,
society.
I agree.
Because back in the day, you used to have to keep your crazy to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now you get to share it. And I think that, that's the thing with me. It's just being really shocked at how many emotionally disturbed people are out there.
Yeah.
Like I think my last straw was the live that Radical had. over the weekend?
Oh my God.
I listened to that.
I didn't stick around. I didn't stick around.
Well, I didn't listen to much of it because, okay, I understand what the subject of the video was, but there was too much arguing about race, and that's like that's kind of like,
That gets annoying after a while. That
yeah,
really does, because like I told people on Fighter Stream one time, I know who I am. I know, my background. I know my culture.
yes.
If you have confidence within yourself, you ain't got to put down nobody, man.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to put down people. I don't have to put down no particular group to make myself feel that I'm superior to somebody, or I feel like I'm better than somebody. A lot of that is coming from your insecurity, because before I am who I am as a Black American, I'm a man first. And you have to respect people as men and women. And there's no need for you to, jump on the board to like try to disrespect people. Me personally, I didn't agree with the live because I feel like within my community, and this is just me speaking, my personal opinion within my community, it's a lot of people not a lot of people, but it's some people with insecurities. Like when you would talk about, okay, for instance, we know the Hispanoteps, we know the diverse teps like Denise say, but the original teps was the Hoteps. And that's where everybody branched off from. And some of these people talking points are just outright flawed. We know majority of people that are in the United States of African descent came from slavery. It's nothing to be ashamed about that with. Don't let your insecurities get to the point where you're trying to redefine history, or you're trying to make it seem that, oh, majority of us was here in these No, if that was the case, it would have never been an Atlantic slave trade that crossed into the Americas, which was the Caribbean islands, whether it be the island of Hispaniola, or Puerto Rico, or Cuba, or Jamaica, or any of those islands, and then into the United States. We don't share the same DNA as Native people that's been here. Whether you talk about Native Americans stateside, or the Tainos, or the Arawaks, or the Caribs, we don't share that same DNA. Those people migrated over from I believe the Siberia area into what is now known as the Caribbean, and known as the states and Canada and all of that during the Ice Age. That's how they got there when everything was bridged together through ice.
Mm-hmm.
And they migrated into the Caribbean from South America. And it's just that simple. What's not to see? I mean, what's not to understand? But some people would take something and turn it into something else, and then try to create an argument that's really not even there, that you don't have the evidence to back up.
No, I don't
Exactly.
You know what?
They're not even in Africa no more. So it's like, what the fuck do you do with that? And when you try to come and you try to bring factual information, how do you know there was a slave trade? That's just something that's a white man told you.
Oh yeah. Try to make it seem like it never happened, even though there are manifests and there are documents, there are diagrams of the
my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law is Jamaican, and they have documentation from when their ancestors arrived in Jamaica. So they have the ship, they have all that information.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
But
I know we can't all trace back, but some a lot of people can.
No, I remember recently there is a certain YouTuber, large platform. I don't want to mention her name, but I think that Rakim is gonna get the hint as to who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And she has a large following, and basically they talk. This YouTuber only talks about two things. Remember that, Rakim? We talked about that.
Yes,
she only talks about two things. You know who I'm talking about. Well, when I was watching her, I don't watch her anymore. I'm not mentioning names because I don't want to promote her. But she was saying, she dropped all of a sudden and mentioned something about Cuba, and she dropped this big lie that Cuba started out as a black nation.
Oh my God!
Yeah. I mean, started out as a black nation. It was a black nation first, and I mean, and she dropped this big lie. I didn't even bother to make any comments because I'll just get attacked. And but yeah, that revisionism, those go around,
and
and there
here's
is that misinformation.
and
Some
here's one
people
thing
still
that,
like that one drop rule, you know.
yeah, you know what, I definitely understand that, but here in the States, that's something that was ingrained in law. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, it was a lot of people that are biracial. Some people, like for instance, if I don't let myself, I don't try to identify anybody. Whatever they identify themselves as, that's their business. So if you're biracial and you consider yourself black, who am I to tell you that how to identify yourself? Because some you have some biracial people, they had a lot of negative racist experiences growing up
Mm-hmm.
here in America, because they, like they experience some of the same situations that people of one ethnicity experience. So a lot of the time they would gravitate towards that one group, especially if they was raised in a predominantly black household. Or you have some people, I've even heard people who was raised around their white side, and they've heard negative, disparaging
Yeah.
remarks, and it made them gravitate more because they realize, oh, this is how you view me. Especially
Mm-hmm.
if you have those features. It's one thing to be the Mariah Carey type or someone like that, but if you are a biracial person and you have predominantly features, of more of your black side, a lot of the times those people got mistreated fairly. But that was something that was put in law here in the States. And
Mm-hmm.
my grandmother, it was ingrained in people. My grandmother went by the one drop rule, you know, and different, and it's passed on from generation to generation because that's how so long it's been in the United States, history. I know in other parts of the world, people just consider themselves biracial or multiracial, but here in the States, it was a completely different beast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I mean, in the so-called Latin America, there is the whole thing about the different terms, like the mestizaje, the whole mulatto thing, which are terms that I'm not really fond of because they're created by the colonizers. But it's like kind of like we have a more of a tendency to identify with nationality and the cultures and the flags, and it's not so much with race. But I can only speak about Puerto Rico because that's where I was born and raised. That's where,
Dominican Republic is a thing.
but that's where I grew up. And when it comes to race, we don't really go around talking like that. I get accused, you bunch of colorists, you're a bunch of racists, you're anti-black, this and that. I've been told all of that, and these are people that really don't know what they're talking about. They have never been to the island, and they have never they don't know how the dynamics are. And in Puerto Rico, we have more important things to worry about. Race is really not one of them. I mean,
Yeah.
but there are just certain people here in the States that will refuse to understand that, and there is
Yeah,
nothing I can do there.
yeah, because some people, we only see things from our perspective
The
being in the
American
United
perspective.
States, and a lot of people haven't traveled. Like your average American don't travel across different places or anything like that. So, um, based off from what I've read, like what you said about Puerto Rico, Ramon, I do believe what you're actually saying. What I do know is certain parts of Latin America that has experienced race issues. The thing that gets me is when you have a lot of the people that come on here and they try to make it seem like, oh, a lot of Latinos want to identify with Afro Latino because of Black Americans, and that's not the case. Like a lot of Black Americans are not conspiring to blackwash people, as they would say. A lot of people get inspired by Black Americans because of the way Black Americans have fought to accomplish things in this country, and fought to try to really stabilize what's been going on here. And a lot of them have dealt with racism within their country, and a lot of the times it gets swept under the rug because for people that are particular darker Latinos, or whether they be predominantly Native or predominantly African, they've never had no civil rights movement in a lot of these countries. I remember watching on YouTube, this was years ago, when somebody was actually doing blackface. I'm not sure if it came from Cuba. Um, I've seen videos of racism in Ecuador where people like these are all. That's when I was first hearing the term Afro Latino, like in 2008, where a lot of people were saying, the racism they experienced in Colombia or the racism they experienced in Ecuador or Panama. And, I can even remember watching videos of, it was one show, and I'm not sure if it was Cuba, but somebody was dressed in blackface, pretending like they was Barack Obama's mother or Barack Obama's grandmother. I'm sorry. And they had like the whole, like voodoo skulls and different things like that. So it's obvious that it's parts where it's blatant racism. So I think that a lot of people just see what Black Americans do and they get inspired and they, start wanting to embrace that identity because of what they dealt with within their family or within their community. It was always shunned. So
Yeah, I think also a big problem is kind of thinking that all of Latin America is the same too, and with the whole identity and the labels, people like I can understand where a lot of African Americans come from with not kind of understanding how we label ourselves because I mean, I grew up here in the United States. I went to school here, but I also went to school in Dominican Republic, and I learned both. I saw how school was taught here and I saw how school was taught there. I saw what people were taught here. I saw what we were taught over there. And it's so different. Like from the moment, because I have one child, she's 7. From when she started first grade, that's when the teachings of Black versus white started here. And she started learning stuff about that racism in first grade. In Dominican Republic, for example, I don't know about Puerto Rico, but in Dominican Republic, you're never taught about race wars. There were no race wars, so people aren't taught from a young age to look at each other by their skin tone. And also that it affects labels. Race is those are descriptive terms in our countries. They're not labels. They're not what people identify as. It's basically stuff down your throat that you're multiracial, and the enemy was never a person's skin color. It was a country. That's where the issues with Haiti come in too. It has nothing to do with skin color. It's who tried to come into our country over 12 times, who tried to take over our land dozens of times. That's where all those problems come from. So I can understand kind of the way it's viewed here, but
the thing
it's
is
complicated.
In our countries, it's a couple of things. First of all, we're the majority.
Yeah.
Quote unquote people of color. We're the majority. And second of all, we were never subjected to the intense terrorism that African Americans were.
True.
We weren't out there getting lynched because, we were looking at white people or whatever, or, we didn't have to put up with that. I mean, like African Americans, they were still dealing with that shit up until the 60s.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, way even past that, even in the 70s and the 80s. Like, can I say something real quick, Truth?
Yeah.
Like for instance, I'll tell you something. Like my grandma, like I say, this is not that far back when you still got generations that of people that are still alive. It was a woman that's 107 years old right now that was recounting the race riot of 1919 in Chicago, what they called the Red Summer, because like these people was like terrorizing Black people throughout through the race riot. But I remember my grandmother telling me a story when she first moved to Douglas Park, because during the Great Migration, a lot of Black Americans was coming from the South. She moved to an area called Douglas Park, which was located on the west side of Chicago, and the whites in that area was terrorizing Blacks, and it had gotten to the point that anytime a Black person would try to go up to Douglas Park, they was getting chased out by white people. They was getting stumped, beat up, stabbed, and everything else. And it was this one kid. They had their last straw when this one kid, he ended up missing the school bus, and Chicago was segregated, but it wasn't segregated by name. You just knew where to go and where not to go.
Yeah.
And the kid ended up missing the bus, and he had to go through a white neighborhood to try to get to another bus to make it to school. He ended up being caught by a white street gang in that neighborhood, and they beat him to death. They end up busting his head open and killing him. And then after that, that was like the last straw in that area. That's when blacks started grouping up and saying, we're going to have to protect ourselves. And, you know, she was telling me that a lot of the boys grabbed bats and chains, and they said, you know what, we're going up to this park. We're not running from them anymore. She even would tell me that her mother, which was my great grandmother, who I knew as well, would tell her, when you walk past white people, make sure to keep your head down. Don't ever look them in the eye, because if you look them in the eye, that was liable for you to get lynched and killed, because it was called reckless eyeballing. And she said they wasn't going by that. You know, the North was breeding a different type of person, but that fear was instilled in them for so many generations that it was passed down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something African Americans try to do to immigrants, honestly. Like to people that are from outside the United States, they try to kind of instill that fear. Because one of the things I hear a lot, especially like I hear it a lot on TikTok. I see a lot of the, you know, the race wars on TikTok. And one of the things you always see is, you know, in regards to Dominicans and them saying they're not black and whatnot, is like, oh, but the white man's gonna look at you like this. The white man's gonna treat you like that. You know, and it's like people, you know, they come here hungry. They come here, you know, from dirt floors, and they're not worried about their race and how someone else is going to treat them based on their race. They just know that they have a better opportunity here than they did back home.
We don't give a fuck about the white man. You know,
Yeah, we don't.
that's something, you know, that misunderstanding was what created a lot of friction between African Americans and those of us from the Caribbean, because we never had to deal with craziness like that. I mean, that shit is batshit crazy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
Yeah,
when
exactly.
at least certain islands. I know Cuba was the last to get rid of slavery. They may have different experiences, but like Dominican Republic, for example, like Dominican Republic, Spain left the DR alone for hundreds of years. Like the island created its own identity away from oppression, so to say, in comparison to other islands, right?
but you
Um,
when people tell you these stories, you think they're crazy, because you know you're like, that is some crazy shit that can't possibly be true. So you
yeah,
know
it's
that's
crazy.
the thing, is like when we came and we started hearing all of this shit, we were like, y'all must be smoking some shit, because that just sounds so ridiculous. It can't possibly be true. So you
Mhm.
know, when we would encounter white people, we weren't bowing and scraping and, you know, afraid to look at them and all of that. So they, you know, the way we got perceived is that, you know, we were kiss asses, you know?
Yeah.
You know,
And
they,
also like
they
most of our
just,
families, right, are, you know, like everybody has, like I have a white grandma, I have a black grandpa. I have you know,
yeah,
so
you
like
know, so
we're so mixed that we don't have those views either.
we had a totally different perception, and we didn't have anything in our history that would cause us to be afraid
Yes,
of
that's what
being around them, you know,
the
because
brainwashing.
look, in Jamaica, the reason why, and a lot of the Caribbean, why slavery ended when it did is because we got tired of that shit and we started fucking burning down plantation houses.
Yeah.
You know, so that was one of the reasons why the British ended slavery when they did, because it's like it's too expensive to keep, you know, putting down these fucking
Yeah.
rebellions and shit, you know?
Yeah, and I know DR had a dry land. You know how Florida used to have that dry land law or whatever.
Yeah.
DR had that too. So, you know, slaves kept escaping. It got to a point where they were like, "What the hell is going on here?" They couldn't even keep people, you know, slaves on their islands, because all they had to do was reach that beach, and they couldn't be persecuted. They couldn't be gone after.
You know, so when we came here and we heard all of this shit, we were like, you know, a lot of us we're like, this can't possibly be true, and we really didn't understand. I mean, like, my own personal experience, when I used to hear all of this shit, I just could not relate to it at all. It wasn't until I grew up and I started going out, outside the neighborhood, and then I started experiencing, I was like, so that's what the fuck they were talking about.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't relate either.
I just could not relate at all. It didn't make sense. It was like, I'd hear people talking about the black experience. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I learned.
Yeah. And
But
and can I say something? Even though I've experienced like being called racial slurs and things like that, I still couldn't relate. Because what you're taught in school, you kind of it's like 18 letters say they make it seem like it was so long ago, you
Mhm.
know. And when you're young and you're a teenager and you're like learning all these things in high school and whatnot, like your brain isn't really like understanding the gravity of the situation. And if it wasn't because I went back to college as an adult, and you know how you have to take history in college, like
Yeah.
higher education level history,
Yeah.
that's when I really understood how bad it was. And like I knew it was bad, but that's when I felt it. Like I couldn't even get through my history class without crying during my papers, and I'm being so honest, because like I would get mad at my professor. I'm not gonna lie. My papers were very like emotionally charged because I was like, how dare you ask me how I feel about this? Like all this cruelty and all this freaking trauma that you guys caused people. Like it's crazy. I had a hard time. I'm not gonna lie, with just regular old college history. I had a very hard time with that, with
Yeah,
learning about everything that was done to people.
the only ones I can think that at a particular time that came like as close to relating, like in my city, was Puerto Ricans. When Puerto Ricans migrated from the island into the city of Chicago, they was met with a lot of racism, like
Mhm.
very bad racism. Like
Yeah, I
of
read The
course the
Making of a
same.
King. Gave me an idea of that.
Yes, 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 exactly. And it took place right in that particular area, Humboldt Park.
Hmm.
And my grandmother would tell me about the Puerto Rican riots when I was a kid, and she was telling me how they was rioting in the year 67 and the year 1976, which you can actually see on YouTube. They have the old footage because of housing discrimination, racial discrimination, and they had to form gangs to protect themselves because
Hmm.
you had white gangs that was terrorizing both blacks and Latinos, which is
Yeah.
how the Latin Kings formed,
Yeah.
from gangs like the Gaylords, the Great American Youth, the Simon City Royals, the Chi West, Chicago and Western,
And
um, the
from
Stone
my
Freaks, those
yeah,
guys.
I wanted to add also from my I had a boss a long time ago that he was Italian. He was a first generation Italian. And this was in Massachusetts. And he said that, they kind of went through the same thing also when they came to the States, when they had those waves of migrations from like Italy and those countries. Because before, people from those countries weren't considered white, if they were from outside of those like Northern European, England area. So I remember him saying it was the same thing. They had to form gangs. His name was Marco, and they had to change his name to Mark to sound more American so he wouldn't get teased. And, like, it's crazy. Man, it's the white
so, like,
people.
this country
Well,
was founded on polarization from the very beginning.
Yeah,
And and that's why they never developed a cohesive culture. Like us in the Caribbean,
that's
it's
true.
not that we don't have racism or
Racism. Yeah.
discrimination and shit like that. We do, but it was never to the same
Ingrained in the
degree
culture.
that it was here in the United States. And we developed, because we were the majority, we developed a cohesive culture that everybody, you could be white, you could be black, you could be whatever, but at the end of the day, we all share the same culture. That
Mhm.
never that never developed here in the United States.
Yeah.
No, but that has everything to do with the fact that this land called the United States has never been one
There's
culture. It has never been one culture, even when there were only natives.
That's true.
Right. I mean, because there were different tribes. There were the Cherokees, there were the Comanches, there were the
Yeah. And they're
Apaches,
all
there were the
completely
Sioux,
different peoples.
and they all had their different customs, their different cultures,
And they
even
warred
within
on
the
each other.
indigenous. And they will have their conflicts, or if you want to look down on look down with the Aztecs. I mean, I don't know if they were devolving because of religious beliefs, but I understand that the Mayans, even with their advancements, their cultural and their scientific advancements, they were somewhat divided. They were divided in factions, and they will fight each other, and the colonizers were able to exploit that. I
Yes,
mean,
exactly.
uh-huh. And they were
That's
able
how they took
to,
advantage of that. That's how they were able to expand as quickly by
yeah,
putting
yeah.
natives against each other.
Even when they didn't have the numbers, but that was a very particular thing here in the States, because you already had different tribes of natives that maybe they were not seeing eye to eye with each other, and that's something that they were able to exploit. At least in the Caribbean, it was like the Arawaks and maybe the Caribs, and those were the two main tribes that they will kind of like fight each other. But it was mostly in the Antilles Major. It
Yeah.
was the Arawaks, the Taínos, as
Well,
they're.
that's one thing. That's one of my favorite topics. Actually, I have a TikTok account dedicated to that type of information. But that was one thing that was part of the mentality of the natives from the Caribbean, is that like if you were an outsider and you moved there, you became them. So they had always that very cohesive like culture of accepting others into, and I think
And
that
that's
that
something that
has
we.
persisted till this day, that
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, yeah. I totally believe that that's something that we have inherited, because we Puerto Ricans are very accepting people. I mean, and
Mhm.
anybody that travels to the island is very much treated the
Always
same.
welcome. Yeah, I feel like all of the Caribbean is like that. Like we don't have issues with cultural appropriation and none of that. Like we love everybody that celebrates our culture.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, there's a little bit of tension in places like Trinidad and Guyana because the British deliberately set the East Indians against the Africans,
Mm-hmm.
They created, because they wanted to have that divide and
The
rule.
division, yes.
But at the end of the day, there's still things that unify them all together. Like if you're a Trini, there's just certain things that all Trinis, like a common ground that all Trinis get together on.
Yeah.
In the United States, we really don't have anything like that, you
Yeah.
know, for the most part.
Um,
Yeah.
And I don't know, man, the United States, I think, like the whole civil rights movement and stuff happened in the United States more than anywhere else is because the conditions here were so severe.
Yes.
They didn't have a choice.
Yeah, that's true.
It was like it was fight or die. You
Exactly.
know?
And they
well,
and they got to the point. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jose.
well, the fact of the matter is, in this country, we have an issue with people that are different from us. That is, I mean, and that goes way back even before the founding of this nation.
Hmm.
Where back in 1619, when they brought in the first group of African indentured servants, slaves, wink, wink, slaves, and then the mistreatment of the indigenous people and whatnot, and then you have the Japanese being placed in prison camps for fear that might betray us and what have you. I mean, this country has a history of not being able to deal with people who are different.
The white man has a fear of having land taken away from them that they took from people. I think that's what it all boils down to. That's why they have issues with everybody they've like ingrained that in the culture and like the fabric
Yeah.
of this country to reject outsiders, you know,
It's
and it's
fear.
because they don't want the circle to continue.
It's the fear. It's
Well,
the
that
fear.
may be what will say what will explain the whole thing, the whole fascination with building the wall at the border, which it wouldn't have helped anything because a wall is an immovable object that people can climb over, and most of the people that come to this country, they come with a visa. They just let the visas expire, so a wall wasn't going to help with that.
There's tons of tunnels also.
Mhm.
Yeah, that we
You'll
don't know
find a
about.
way to do it. You'll find a
Well,
way to do it if you want to. Like,
Of course.
that's one thing about human beings. We will find a way to do whatever the hell we want to do. So
mhm.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
you can build whatever you want to build. If we can't get over it, we'll go under it. If we can't go under it, we'll go
listen.
through it. If we
Yeah, when you're hungry and it's fight
that's
and it's either that or die, you will figure it out.
exactly.
And yeah, and I was just gonna say, like and that's the thing what you were saying, Stephanie, like some black people try to say, oh well, you guys are black and everything too. And I do get what they're saying, because based off of the run drop rule here in the States, you got to remember biracial people never had their own community like that. It was more that they was shunned off into the black community, because the reason why things were so brutal here was because white people wanted to make sure that their wealth was protected. So they did
Mm-hmm.
not want to deal with the situation where somebody that would be half black would actually get their wealth
An
by them claiming their
opportunity.
children. So they
Mm-hmm.
would shun those people off. And like what you were saying about how you couldn't relate, a lot of black people, based with a lot of black Americans being Democratic Party, when they would talk about, multiculturalism and different things like that, a lot of the black people fail for that, which is why I do understand why the FBA thing is being created now, is because like a lot of the times black people would just be like, well, everybody else, they face, because black people know what it's like to be discriminated against, to be really discriminated against. So like a lot of the times they were like, well, they're going through this group is going through this. Maybe they understand, where we're coming from, or they'll be, mostly with us, and people starting to see that that's not the case. So, you have people that are creating, like with the FBA situation, because um, like a lot of immigrants have come to the United States and talk down on Black Americans. They've fallen for the media propaganda, and they carry themselves in a superior manner, like they're better, and they're coming from countries that's poverty stricken, and they're
Mm-hmm.
benefiting off of what Black Americans are fought for, while Black Americans are starting to continue to be undermined. And then when you listen to, like, I'm not saying Black Americans are innocent either, but when you listen like to the disparaging remarks, and oh, these people don't do this, or these people don't do that, and they don't even know the history or what they're actually taking place, it can leave a bad taste in your mouth. And that doesn't go just for the Caribbeans, because now you have people talking about, like, I've I've actually heard Africans like make
Yeah.
fun of Black Americans, like, oh
Yeah.
well, we don't do this, or we don't do, like, I had to ask this one girl at my job, because she was like trying to talk bad on Black Americans. I'm like, do you know who Huey P. Newton is? Do you know who Malcolm X is? Do you know who um Medgar Evers is? Do you know any of these people? And she was like, no. I was like, well, I think you need to do some research before you start speaking in a negative light on, because we're like the only group that's actually tried to fight to do something about
Mm-hmm.
this situation. So I think that's where that comes into play. But one thing that Truth was saying earlier, even after the civil rights movement, before that, of course, you had urban renewal. You had, the 1957 Highway Act, where they simply ran expressways through. They didn't want to build expressways in white people's neighborhoods, so they just ran them completely through Black people's neighborhoods, where at that time we was mostly segregated and had our own businesses, and our communities was up and running. They just ran no straight through Black neighborhoods all across America. Of course, all of the, not just Black Wall Street, it was multiple. Um, massacres where black towns was burned down throughout the whole United States.
Yeah. And
Um,
even put under that lake, I learned about Lake Rainier earlier
yeah,
this year. The
yeah,
lake where that used to be a whole town, and they just built a lake over it.
yeah, yeah. And the lady that was just awarded Bruce Beach on behalf of her family in California, which
Mm-hmm.
was a black beach that was taken through eminent domain, and like pretty much the black wealth in this country was just stolen. It was
Stolen.
just kind of like stolen underneath our feet. And of course we know about redlining, and even the history of the suburbs was created out of racism
Yeah.
and all of that equity that the wealth had built. And of course we're not talking about, we know it's some good white people out there, we're not talking about white people, we're talking about the system that was in place. So, even Levittown and everything, which was the creation of the suburbs, was based off of racist ideology.
Yeah.
And of course, redlining, block busting, the war on drugs, the of course the what I'm looking at, the 13th Amendment, all of that different things. So it's a lot of stuff that has black Americans has experienced, and like a lot of people can't relate to the point that they're like, you know what, we're gonna start looking for our own self-interest, because you
Yeah. But
have a lot of
what I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say my only issue with that is like, I don't want to speak on behalf of Black Americans. I don't even like using the term Black, honestly. I don't think we should use race word, those colonizer type of terms. But, you have to remember, these are things that we're learning now. A lot of people are just learning this history
Yeah,
of,
I get it. I
our own,
definitely
of
understand. Yeah.
Americans. So imagine people in Latin American countries. And I can't speak for the Caribbean, even though I know in the Caribbean it was very common, like in my grandmother's time, for people not to go past maybe the third or fourth grade. But in other Latin American countries, most people are coming to the United States without a formal education. They don't know any of these things. They're not being taught. All they know is what they see, like you said, in the media. So for Americans to feel some type of way, like you kind of have to understand also that they can't relate, and it's because they're ignorant to it. You know.
Oh, I agree 100%. No, I definitely understand that. I definitely understand that. Um,
Um,
yeah, no, I agree. I agree. But like some people can't understand that because, each person is looking at everything from their country's
Hmm.
perspective. You see what I'm saying? Like a lot of people coming here from different countries and their situation is different and they can only see it that way. And then black Americans that are here with their experiences is only seeing it one way. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
excuse me. I'm going to begin to start wrapping this up. First of all, I'm very appreciate the fact that all of you, um, hop on the channel to share your thoughts. So I'm going to start with closing remarks. I'm going to start with Rakim.
Oh, okay. I know we got a little bit off topic. But
It's okay.
one thing I would say, like with social media, it's just so much has changed, man. So much has changed since the exception of social media. It has its goods and its bads. And the good is we have an encyclopedia of information to be able to look all around the world before, like we've never had this before. So I can learn about the history in the Caribbean. I can learn about things that goes on in Europe or in Africa by actually just looking on social media. And, but the bad is that now people have become too dependent on social media to the point that it affects a lot of people's social skills. We're losing that. We're losing that human interaction, and things are moving quickly. It just seems like within my lifetime, we went from music cassettes and video cassettes to CDs and DVDs to
Digital.
digital and all of
MP3.
our music being on our phones. And yeah, so like what Ramon was saying, you'll have some people that'll be supposed to be taking care of work, and they're sitting there on Instagram and not really paying attention to something that's considered important when it comes to trying to take care of business. I even seen this one funny video with this man. He was trying to report a crime that had happened to him, and he was at the police station, and a woman was not even listening to what he was saying. She was on the phone playing Candy Crush. So,
And getting paid for it too. Oh.
but I'll just say this one last thing, and I'll end. Like Ramon was saying earlier, you want to be extremely careful with what you put on social media as far as your political views and beliefs, because that could affect you in the real world. Because now we're getting to a point where people can't tell the difference between reality and social media, and both are intertwining with each other. You know, and consuming social media for a long period of time can definitely have an effect on your brain, especially if you're just hearing toxic and negative things. If you're not using it for educational purpose or learning how to establish income or invest in stocks, majority of the time, if you're just using it for entertainment purposes, you're going to come across a lot of negative stuff that's going to distort your perspective on life, especially when you leave outside the door. So we have to be careful with that. It has its ups and downs.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Joaquin. I really appreciate your input. I'm going to put you in the background. And now we're going to go to True Teacher, your final thoughts. Let's see if we can keep you a little bit brief.
Well, like I said, social media is a blessing and a curse, and it's here to stay, but I think it's been a learning curve in learning about, just certain personalities that we're coming across. And so now we have to just act accordingly and just know that there's just certain people that, we need to disengage. We don't need to be interacting with them. So I think now that we have this technology, the next step is learning how to navigate it, and it's trial and error. There's a lot of things that we just never imagined, when we started out on this thing. Like who knew, about trolls? It's
Yeah.
like we didn't know about it until it became a thing that we had to deal with, And now we're learning that mental and emotional illness is far more pervasive in our society than we thought. So we have to be a lot more savvy in picking up, early when we're dealing with an emotionally disturbed person, and not waste so much time giving them time and attention that they don't deserve,
Agree.
We need to learn how to disengage. And it really hit me home that last live stream I had with Red. I'm like, I'm talking about emotionally disturbed people. I'm like, why am I don't need to be doing this. So I'm learning how I'm going to conduct myself moving forward, But I don't know, man. It is kind of disconcerting to me how much of our lives are dependent not only on social media but like our devices. It really scares the hell out of me. What would happen if there was like a big blackout and we couldn't access our phones? I mean, there's so much of our lives that are on our phones. And a lot of us do business with Facebook, you know? And what happened? We're all in a very vulnerable position. It's great when it works, but when something happens and then we don't have access, it's like you're crippled, So I don't know. We got to figure out ways of having a backup or workaround, because it's a little bit too much like having all your eggs in one basket. And
Yeah,
so that
definitely.
leaves you in a very vulnerable position if, God forbid, something should happen. So I think, things like this blackout happening, it's kind of a wake up call, is showing us how vulnerable we really are.
Well, um, I'm sorry. Well, As always, true teacher, it's always a pleasure to hear your words of wisdom. And thank you very much. I'm going to put you in the background. Now we're going to go to my father, Boricua Ramon, for your final words.
Sí, sí. Yes, the first thing is I appreciate you, Don Jose, for letting me on your panel. I mean, and when it comes to the main subject, when it comes to social media, once hears the word social in social media, then one will think that it will be something that will help for people to develop social skills, and for a lot of people, it's doing the very opposite. I mean, they may be able to interact a little bit, but they can only do it through through their fingers, through their typing fingers. They don't really know how to actually interact, do real socializing, do real interaction face to face with people. They can only do that through their phones, and I think that's actually it's kind of sad because to actually be able to go out and actually to be able to interact face to face with other people is like the most natural way to interact. I mean, adding technology is a relatively new thing. Doing it through a phone, that's only been for a few years. So I just wish that for us to not lose that skill of being able to interact face to face, because it's kind of getting ridiculous. I mean, people are gonna be freaking out when there is another blackout, social media blackout, social media silence, like we just saw. I didn't notice it, I will admit. I only learned about it when I saw Tina's live. Because I was during the day I was busy doing other things. At the job that I do, it doesn't involve social media at all. So I didn't realize that there have been a blackout. So I didn't learn about it until I saw Tina's lives. But there are people. I get it. There are people that do depend on being able to use certain outlets for business, for the living. Okay, I get it. I get it. I just, the only thing that I could recommend is for people that are so dependent to kind of have alternatives, certain alternatives that will involve like maybe email if they can't use social media, that they can use also email listings for their clients and that thing that. So there is no, they're not completely dependent on an app that could get corrupted, that could end up getting deleted, or maybe the phone gets damaged and they don't have access to it and temporarily, so they can still handle certain things via a computer, a laptop, and something like that. Kind of like having alternatives, having more than one way to handle their business, but because being completely dependent on an app on a phone, it's kind of it's kind of sensitive. It's kind of like that could get damaged in any way. That could catch a virus at any time. That could that could get corrupted. That device could fall and crack because people drop their phones all the time. But being completely depending on it, I don't know. I don't know. There should be alternatives. People did business before there were social media and electronic devices. People still were able to interact and being able to exchange ideas other ways. I mean, when I was younger, all we had was the phone, and it was the regular phone. Yeah, I'm old. But
So am I. So don't feel so bad.
Okay, well, I had a phone too. The ones
yeah.
that you have to put your finger in a circle and let it go back for each number. No te preocupes.
Ah, yeah.
Rotary
Oh,
dial.
you have the rotary dials. You have
I
that.
see. Mm-hmm.
Oh no! It's just you don't seem to be that old. I mean, I thought that you.
I'm not too old, pero I'm older. 80. I'm an 80s baby, so más o menos I have memories of a lot of things.
Okay. Yeah. Back in the 80s, back
Mhm.
home, we had the rotary dials on the phones,
Mhm.
but it was I didn't know what it was to have a cell phone until the like 1997, 98 or something like that. That's when I had a cell phone, and it was actually a cellular phone that you could only do calls. Texting was not a thing, not yet.
Guaya hielo.
Yeah, yeah, because
That's what we used to call them, guaya hielos,
yeah,
with the green screen.
yes. I mean, there were the bricks that you could hurt somebody with those because they were big and heavy. Yep, yep.
Calcom.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Qualcomm, the Motorola's, the there were those. Yeah. I remember back in the 90s that there
Mhm.
were a novelty, and people will walk around with the phone by the head because it was a thing.
And
It
the
was a
hip.
thing. Not everybody had it yet. Uh-huh. So, but in the end, and so I can stop talking now. But yeah, it's just that there should be other ways to interact, and just not completely dependent on an app, on an electronic device or a smartphone, because that can get damaged. There should be People should be able to have alternatives of communication, even if it involves like having kind of like I think a CB radio or a ham radio, things like that. Those things don't depend on the internet. Those are radio waves that go through the air, and having alternatives to be able to communicate, and yeah, yeah, like
Yeah, I
that's the
remember my
tendency.
dad and his friends. They used to all be on a radio channel every afternoon. Y se hablaban por la radio. Todito, with little like walkies on the radio.
Well,
Yes. The idea is not be completely depending on the apps on the smartphones, because that can get damaged, that can get shut down. There could be some kind of a kill switch to stop it from functioning. There should be alternatives, and I'll leave it at that, because I'm not gonna be done with it. But again, Don Jose, thank you for letting me on the panel, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
well, I really appreciate your input. Thank you very much. I'm going to put you in the background. And now up to you, Stephanie, your final thoughts.
My final thoughts, well, we have to change with the times, right? So we need to stay up to date with all these new trends. My take is that we should take advantage while we have the opportunity to have these applications and these new channels, and to learn from them. Like one of the things that I've been learning is how to be self-sustainable, how to garden, how to compost, how to preserve food. Like I spend a lot of my time on social media learning those type of things, and I think that people should take advantage because when the pandemic hit, and cuando se va la luz and those type of issues, people need to learn how to survive. You're not going to be able to go chit chat on Facebook, but if you spend your time wisely learning about those things, then you may be better off than the next person. So I say take advantage of what you can learn from social media and having access to things you wouldn't normally have access to.
Well, thank you very much, Stephanie. I really appreciate your input. I know that you're very busy, with your child and going to college and what have you. So whenever you wish, by all means, just drop by.
Yep.
I'm gonna put you in the background. Thank you very much. Now, my final thoughts are the following. The fact of the matter is, social media is here to stay. Uh, my suggestion is, for a few hours during the week, if you can, unplug yourself from social media and try to actually talk with people face to face. Unfortunately, while social media can help us bring us closer together, it can keep us separated. And unfortunately, it can become an addiction where people use it to trust for every frivolous item. I thank everybody who viewed the video and will catch it on the replay. I also thank all those who gone on the panel. And just as a reminder, on Friday, October the 15th at 8:30 p.m., I'm going to do a part 2 becoming a homeowner. And I'm going to have the person who helped me get my apartment to share her words of wisdom. That being said, I'm going to close the same way as I always close. People, please be careful out there because they're still dealing with COVID-19, and we must do everything possible to avoid contact with the mentally and intellectually challenged people, or else we get infected by their stupidity and mass insanity. Thank you very much, and have a blessed night, and peace.